I'd like to call to order the August 13th, 2024 regular monthly business meeting for the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority. And I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And if you want to speak in public comments, we had a sign-up form. I guess it's a little late now because we started the meeting. But anyway, let's go to a roll call.
Commissioner Gooch.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaczynski will not be with us this evening. Commissioner Karen.
Present.
Councilperson Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner McLam.
Present.
Commissioner Way.
Present.
And Councilperson Cheek.
Present.
All are accounted for.
Okay, thank you. And now, if you will, Councilperson Vicki Daniels will lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. We thank you for our many blessings. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions during tonight's meeting, and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. Protect us and guide us as we go throughout the week. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And if you will, join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda tonight? Does anyone have any adjustments? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve we have a motion to approve our meeting agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. We'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Now we have review and approval of the minutes from our July 9th, 2024 board meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes? That will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve minutes.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. And any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to our vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. Our next item is public comments. Do we have anybody sign up?
We have not.
We don't have any. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Board discussion items. Let me catch up here. Okay. Okay. I believe Commissioner Way, you had some discussion items.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. One of the things that we have presented, we've had some citizens reach out to various board members for the city of Creedmoor. And it's in reference to water quality complaints, dealing with the water smell and the color of their water. And what we try to do is let them know that those complaints have to come back to SGWASA as the utility that handles those complaints. And we've directed them to the website and to reach out to things of that nature. As the city of Creedmoor, we spoke about it. We had a letter that was drafted to be presented tonight to the members of the board and entered into the minutes. And I'll be happy to read the letter to go ahead if that's what you'd like to do. It's addressed to South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority. Dear Chairman Gooch, over the last few weeks, we've had several Creedmoor citizens express serious concerns about the quality of their drinking water, and we acknowledge that your position as the water complies with all federal and state standards. However, we are compelled to communicate to you the concerns of our citizens about having water containing sediments and an odor. Additionally, we're hearing concerns about drinking water containing dangerous levels of toxic forever chemicals known as the PFAS. Our citizens are hearing the PFAS can cause dangerous long-term health effects. Children are especially vulnerable as they're still developing. As a result of EPA's new standards, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality drafted surface water and groundwater standards for 8 PFAS and widespread in North Carolina. Clean Water for North Carolina and other environmental health advocates agree that the proposed standards were not strong enough. The suggested timeline for implementation was too long. We know that SGWASA is aware of these water quality issues. We are directing citizens to the SGWASA webpage, to the water quality questionnaire, and for other information. If we can provide any other information from our side, please let us know. The letter was signed sincerely, Commissioner Archer Wilkins and Commissioner Robert Way for the City of Creedmoor.
Okay.
If that can be entered into the minutes.
All right. We'll enter that into the minutes, and I noticed that there's 2 commissioners out of 5, and the mayor. You got 3 commissioners who didn't sign it, and the mayor that didn't sign it. Is that correct? Pardon me?
All the commissioners' names appear on that letter.
The copy that was sent to me only has 2 signatures on it.
Doesn't have my name on the letterhead.
Who does?
It,
It's on the letterhead up top.
yeah, your name's on the letterhead. Everybody's name's on the letterhead, but only 2 people signed at the bottom.
I didn't sign it because my name was on there, but you can, if you want me to go up there and sign it, I will.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for the interruption, but it's hard for us to pick up any conversations coming from the audience as far as a record. So if anyone's going to address the board, we would ask them if you would like to come forward and speak so that we actually can capture that information for our record instead of speaking from the audience.
Okay. All right. Mr. Schroyer,
Yes, sir.
what kind of complaints have we been getting from Creedmoor that's coming to SGWASA?
Mr. Chair, based on getting a copy of that letter as well this morning, and I thank you for providing that to me, you'll see in tonight's agenda during the portion towards the end of the agenda where I have an opportunity to provide comments. One of the bullet items I had for presentation this night was PFAS and water quality projects update. If you would like, I think that would be the appropriate time that I can address that and also talk about some of the points in the letter that we received just to update not only the citizens of Creedmoor with everything that we're doing, but also just our regular customer base. And we can walk through that for further discussion if you would like to do that towards the end of the meeting.
Because I feel like there's a disconnect here that the people in Creedmoor are complaining to the town council or the Creedmoor Board of Commissioners, but they don't seem to be complaining to SGWASA. And, Creedmoor has 2 members of this board.
Right. Well, I think the data will show that we do track water quality customer complaints from all of our members. And then we have action items that we actually do when we bring in that questionnaire. So I have information this evening, which I think would be very beneficial to show or refresh the board in terms of how we capture the information, what the questionnaire looks like, why it's so detailed in questions to help us look into things further, and then also update the board and the public in terms of all the projects that we are working on to address water quality in the city of Creedmoor and our other communities we serve, as well as what we're doing with PFAS and the long road that we have in front of us to solve the problem that we didn't create. But it's something that we do have to fund and we do have to fix, and we have a 5-year time limit on that, and the clock is ticking. So I'd be happy to address it then with the board, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So before we move on this topic, I see the voluntary annexation request for the city of Creedmoor for the Mount Energy booster station. Is that a water or is that a sewer lift station? It's both, isn't it? What, sewer's downstream and then the
It's
water's
actually a
downstream.
water booster station.
Water
is what
booster
it is.
station, okay. So is there something we need to do on that annexation request with the city of Creedmoor, or is that, that shouldn't change, it's a water asset? it'd be nice if we get the school to stop parking in front of it.
Okay, so if I may, just to respond to your question, so the city of Creedmoor requested discussion on the voluntary annexation request for the SGWASA-owned water booster station located at the Mount Energy School.
Right.
And I have provided information in the agenda for the board, beginning on page 18. And Crystal, I would ask that you would please pull up agenda page 29 while I talk about this, while the board talks about this topic here. And it's page 29 should be the map that gives the board a good idea of what we were talking about here. So on this map in front of you, you see the Highway 56 to the lower left, and you see Mount Energy School in gray, and scroll back up to the top, and you'll see in cyan a small parcel there next to the school, which represents the parcel that is of the focus this evening for the water booster station. So we have that graphic on screen, which is very helpful. So in summary, the City of Creedmoor took action recently, and so did the Granville County Board of Education, to voluntarily annex the Mount Energy Elementary School campus from Granville County. When they did that, during the time, it was discovered that SGWASA actually has a separate parcel, which was not part of the voluntary request, and that's shown on the map here. Created by the Board of Education for SGWASA by exempt plat filed in 2011, that parcel that we're looking at on screen is 0.122 acres, or just about 5,300 square feet, and it's accessed by a private 20-foot wide driveway to the site for us. So this is a water booster station that boosts water and chlorine basically out to the Wilton area along 56 to the water tower and the schools out in that area. So, and according to the city manager, the annexation unfortunately creates a donut hole of jurisdiction where the City of Creedmoor Incorporated area entirely surrounds unincorporated Parcel D. And so the city has pointed out to us that for ease of emergency service dispatch and to avoid possible future confusion and delayed response amongst law enforcement entities, the city suggests that WASA also voluntarily annex the parcel, the station, into the City of Creedmoor. And in your packet, preparing for this item this evening, we have copies or attachments of the city petition for annexation, as well as the plats, the cadastral map, the property card, and a copy of the deed. All that information is in front of you this evening. So as far as a recommendation, I welcome discussion from the Board of Directors on this topic. I find no reason not to consider a voluntary annexation, especially in light of the city manager's remarks regarding emergency services and dispatch to the area. And should the board favor moving forward with the voluntary annexation, then I just requested a motion from the board authorizing the executive director to complete and sign all forms related to such transaction. So a discussion item, if you will, for the board, and then possibly depending on the outcome of that discussion, there are a couple of action items. Either do nothing, get more information, or possibly provide me with a motion authorizing me to complete and sign all forms.
So your direction is not to do this, is that correct? Is that what I understood you?
No, that is not my direction. Just to clarify, quite simply stated, that the station really doesn't care where it resides. It's still going to do its job, in or out. And I do appreciate the concerns that the city has brought to our attention as far as emergency services to that site. So that would be a county-served site versus a city-served site. So I think it would be a way to kind of clear that up as far as being annexed into the city corporation for that. And just a side note, we went through an exercise about 2 years ago to actually assign addresses, physical addresses, to all of our assets so we could dispatch them to that location in case there was theft, there was fire, so on and so forth. So it is part of actually emergency response situations.
I'd like to hear from the attorney. Jim, is there a reason that we shouldn't move forward with a voluntary annexation? I mean, it's surrounded, again, it's, creating a little donut hole on the map. You can see it's a block building there with a gravel driveway that goes to it up the side of a parking lot. I mean,
Not aware of a reason that
we're not gonna pay taxes on it.
We've got infrastructure in Butner that's within the corporate limits, we've got infrastructure in
Right.
STEM, so I don't see that there's any issue.
Okay, so what's the opinion on this end?
It makes sense because then you don't have any dispute on emergency services, which is the safety of everybody involved and the site.
I agree, and Jim explained it.
And you and Georgiana brought this item for the discussion, for the board discussion items. And I'm sure you're in favor of it.
Yeah, I'll make the motion whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Is everybody else ready?
Yep.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the executive director to complete and sign all forms related to transaction to move this parcel of land into the city limits of Creedmoor.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a second in two places. Is there any further discussion on this? Being no further discussion, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. So we got this item off of our agenda. And then there was a second board discussion item, MyGov Hub online bill payment website customer service topic.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. This was brought forth by Mayor Pro Tem Kaczynski.
Okay.
I think she's had some people reach out to her that they want the amount due put on the email notification from GovHub. Is that correct, Mr. Director?
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm assuming that's where we're at with discussion. Is it something that can be done? Is it going to cost extra funds to do it?
Crystal, would you page down to page 31 for us? So we did some research on this, and I'm also a participant in the MyGov Hub as far as utility bill living here in the town of Butner. And so, similar to most apps, you get notification that your bill is due, but they don't put billing information on your notification. So it requires you to log in to get that information. So that is how our current app is set up. You can see from our explanation that our current software that we have does not allow that. And we are migrating to a new software here this year. So we're having that discussion with them during this implementation period, which can take up until next June or July, unfortunately, to get this done. But as part of that, we're going to take a look at that as well to see if that can be offered as far as that notification, just so at least when you get that notification in your app, you can see what that amount due is. Keeping in mind that once you log in, you can get all the information that you need on that app.
Isn't that how most bills come out? Like, you gotta click on it and sign in before you find out how much you owe.
Yes.
So why would SGWASA be any different?
Yeah, instead of having it move alarms or something.
Right.
And I don't know if it's a safety issue or not to have,
Somebody might pay it for us.
but if you log in, you got your personal
Correct.
ID.
Correct.
Otherwise, I don't know if anybody can log in and read your email. I guess anything's possible.
Yeah.
But supposedly, when you go in your app, that's just for you only.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Okay. So do we have a resolution here, or are we going to study this further?
Well, if I may, so we've answered question 1, and the resolution is that we will look into it to see if it is possible. If it is, then we'll present it back to the board at that point and say we did it, or we can't do it. So we'll do an update for you.
And I don't use this, so I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
So what you're saying is you have to log in to find your balance?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. That's the current state of the app.
Okay.
Do you mean you pay your bill the old-fashioned way?
Yeah, with a check and drop it in the Dropbox.
Oh.
Don't even spend money for a stamp. But I live a half mile away. So.
Gotcha. Mr. Chair, there was one more discussion item that Mayor Pro Tem had,
Okay.
and I believe that Director Shore has actually already answered it for her, and it was if a longtime resident in the city of Creedmoor, before SGWASA's acquisition of the Creedmoor water system, decides to sell their home or passes away, will they or the estate get the original deposit paid back to them by the city, since it was from the city of Creedmoor? And he responded, as long as the records were correct from the city of Creedmoor to SGWASA, that they would get all funds returned to them or the estate, with the exception of anything that may be due for the bill.
Okay. So we have that one.
We're done. We can check that
We're
off the
done.
list.
We'll check that one off the list. Good deal. And now we move on to our public hearing on the draft system development fee analysis report. And that's in our agenda book on page 32 to 75. And in accordance with North Carolina General Statute, excuse me, 162A, Article 8, System Development Fees, the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority, SGWASA, shall hold a public hearing on its draft system development fee analysis report following the not less than 45-day public comment period. Information regarding the required public hearing was posted on SGWASA's website 7/25/24, printed in the Butler-Creedmoor newspaper 7/25/24, and in the Oxford newspaper on 7/26/24. On May 20th, 2024, SGWASA opened public comments for the draft system development fee analysis report. Following the 49-day public comment period on July 8th, 2024, SGWASA closed public comments. During the public comment period, one public comment was received. The one public comment is attached. So with that, I'm going to call to order the public hearing for the draft system development fee analysis report. And just for clarity, this is a public hearing on the report. It's not a public hearing on the development fee itself. It's on the analysis report for the draft, for the development fee. And with that, has anyone completed a request to speak in
No,
the public hearing?
They have not.
They have not. Okay, so we have no comments on it,
That's correct.
and the next step will be to close the public hearing.
That's correct.
Okay. With that, we closed the public hearing because we had no comments written or nobody signed up for comments. Now, next step is following the required public hearing, staff will consider all public comments received and determine if further analysis is needed related to the methodology used in the draft system development fee report. If changes are needed, then the draft system development fee report will be modified and then presented again to the board of directors, thus starting the process over. If it is determined that no further modifications are necessary as related to the methodology used for the calculations of system development fees, then staff will prepare a draft resolution for adoption of the system development fee report. Once the system development fee report is approved by the board of directors, then staff will need to update the system development fees found on the approved fiscal year 24-25 rates, fees, and charges schedule. The board of directors will need to approve the amended fiscal year 24-25 rates, fees, and charges schedule. And is there any discussion on this? Any questions from board members? So we have reached the next step in the system development fees. And with that, we can move on to item number 9. That was item 9. We'll move on to item 10, our I-85 sanitary sewer system improvement project. Requested approval of plans and specifications. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Greatly appreciate that. I would like to note that in our audience this evening is Michael Sloop, professional engineer, Project Management Professor or Professional Vice President of Environmental and Water Resources Engineer with CDM Smith. Michael has been our primary project manager on this project for many years during design. I have him here to help answer any questions that I can't answer this evening, and Michael's going to stick around for a couple of items that we have on our agenda this evening just as well. So I hope that I can provide the information to the board members regarding these topics. If not, I will call on Michael to help us out. So Michael, I appreciate you being here. Thank you. So this item relates to approval of the engineering design plans and construction specifications. The board is well aware of the project as far as the I-85 project, as well as the funding that we have associated with this. So there's multiple funding sources for this project, including ARPA funds, USDA funds, and SGWASA funds for the $70 million project that is in front of us. Before we can actually issue our CP package number 2, which is construction package number 2 for the USDA and SGWASA funded package, we actually need, and it is required by the USDA, that the board actually approve the plans and specifications before we go to bid. So the package was quite large. It was something that we couldn't present to you as an attachment, so we provided a website where the board could actually access those documents, many pages, and we spoke about this at the previous board meeting, and I think we said in the next 30 days, concluding this evening, this item would be here, and we can entertain any questions that you have on the specifications or the plan set in front of us. The outcome of this evening, should you approve the plans and specs, is we will issue a letter to the USDA, and there's a copy of that attached, and also a copy of the official meeting minutes, basically to approve the actions that were taken by the board and submit that to the USDA, and that will fulfill our requirement for the USDA for the plans and specs approval for the funding package for CP2 for the I-85 sanitary sewer improvement project. I do have a recommendation for you that the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors approve the final engineering design plans and construction specifications related to the I-85 sanitary sewer system improvement project as designed by CDM Smith. At this time, I'd be happy to entertain any questions from the Board of Directors.
Okay, who has questions?
A quick comment. I really appreciate our executive director, Mr. Schroyer, and Crystal, I'll use her first name to be familial, on putting together this way of sharing this huge data file. I'm glad that we're embracing technology. Y'all did a very good job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Any other comments? Any questions? Okay.
I said we gotta approve this, what you said, right? I make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Next item is our I-85 sanitary sewer system improvement project, CDM Smith Construction Administration and Construction Observation Engineering Services Contract. Boy, this is a complicated project. And with that, we'll go back to our executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members are greatly appreciated. So yes, this is the I-85 sanitary sewer improvement project. This portion involves a construction administration and construction observation engineering services contract with CDM Smith. I think the best way to put this is to say that we've been working with CDM Smith on the engineering design and analysis for the last 2 years at a contract cost of $5.8 million for the design work, and that contract will conclude once the public bidding and the recommendations for the contractor awards are completed. So look forward to CP number 1 coming in for a recommendation here in December to be under contract, and CP number 2 is right on its heels. So we should be finishing that up possibly in January, February of 2025, and then starting construction for those construction packages. We then get into the actual construction, and during the construction phase services, we have construction observation that goes on. We have inspectors in the field, if you will. We have the administration of just managing a project to this extent, the pay applications, resolving any engineering modifications in the field, There's also training that goes on for our staff, additional services and materials testing for us. So we basically have this contract in front of you that we'd like to have the board review and approve. And looking at page 80, I've provided you a summary of the engineering services provided with this contract, and you can see that we basically have basic services totaling about $3.4 million, which is our construction phase services and post-construction phases services that are being offered. Bullet number 2 talks about resident engineer project representative observations totaling $1.7 million. And I provided for you on screen and in the packet just an idea of what that equates to as far as what we refer to as the RPR services, and to provide you with information regarding what does the workday look like, the inspections, the amount of time, the estimated number of hours that we have included in this project, to give you a perspective on what is required for this project for both CP1 and CP2 over the next 30 to 36 months. So this is the next phase that kind of parallels the construction activity with the contractor that we have. You'll see in the next bullet item that we have additional services totaling $424,000 plus dollars. Again, this is owner training, and then we have material testing and special inspections as part of that additional services. So owner training, for example, a lot of this equipment that's being installed for these pump stations is brand new equipment, telemetry, pumps, you name it. So our team members need to be trained with that. So the manufacturers come in, the engineers come in, and they provide us with all of this training basically to operate all these features. And also we have in the additional services line item material testing and some special inspections related to maybe some of the micro tunnel bores that we have to do under I-85. And material testing would be for subgrade materials, concrete, other materials that we're testing as well. We do that as the owner for independence, so we can be in charge of that material testing and those results just to validate what is going on in the field. So all in all, total additional services for construction, administration, and observation is $5,696,000. In terms of the financials, the cost will be paid from various sources, including SGWASA, ARPA, and USDA. Should the board members approve the contract, then SGWASA will complete the necessary documents to initiate the contract. And then once the contract is completed, copies will be sent to both the USDA and the NCDEQ. I failed to mention previously that we've been in communication with the NCDEQ and the USDA through this entire process, and also working with our attorney for about the last 6 months or longer on this contract. So everybody has looked at it at this point. So everybody's comfortable with what's inside this document, this contract. So there's no surprises here. So bringing it to the board at this point, all of that has been ironed out. We're ready for review and approval and signatures, and then we can move forward actually with this contract. When it's appropriate, sometime January 1st, I would imagine we would get started on that. Again, as far as the attachments, I had an error. There is no Exhibit A. We pulled all that out because the document itself was too much to attach inside of the document, our agenda. We do have copies here, so if the board members do have specific questions about the contract, we have some printouts here we can pass around. And again, our project manager is in the audience. They'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about these services that are being provided. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Any questions?
Jim, you went through all this?
I did go through all.
There you go. I don't have any
Okay.
questions.
All right. Hearing no questions, do we hear a motion?
I'll offer a motion that we accept our executive director's recommendation.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Two places, we got a second. So, any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. And our next item is the I-85 Sewer Improvement Project Wetlands Mitigation Program Credit Purchase Agreement. Requesting authority to execute an agreement with Clearwater Mitigation Solutions, LLC. And Mr. Shroy, will you?
I sure will, and thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. So item 12 and 13 are very similar. There's just some name changes here going on. So let's talk about item 12 here. So Wetlands Mitigation Program Credit Purchase Agreement, looking to execute an agreement with Clearwater Mitigation Solutions LLC. So during the engineering design portion related to the I-5 sanitary sewer improvement project, the design engineers explored all practical alternatives to avoid and minimize the impacts to streams and wetlands. And we were very successful in our project. It's a huge project, as you're aware of, as far as the areas that it covers. However, there were several areas throughout the project design that could not be avoided in terms of exceeding applicable permit thresholds for our wetlands. Due to this exceedance, SGWASA must provide compensatory mitigation. I provided for you in the background section the different methods for mitigation. That includes mitigation banks, in lieu fee mitigation, and permittee responsible mitigation. So based on those items there, we went to a mitigation bank. And so based on the compensatory mitigation options provided, staff is recommending purchasing mitigation credits from Clearwater Mitigation Solutions LLC. The I-5 sanitary sewer improvement projects needs to purchase 2.261 acres of riparian wetlands mitigation credits. I provided for you in the analysis the cost per acre for the mitigation credits at $98,650. And then I've provided for you the calculations that based on that cost multiplied by the total acres needed to be purchased, a total price of $223,047.65. I provided for you as an attachment information regarding the mitigation contract and approval as far as the purchase agreement. Following board approval, I will complete the required forms and transactions to purchase those riparian wetland mitigation credits. I do have a recommendation for the board of directors, and that is the board of directors authorize the executive director to execute the mitigation credit purchase agreement with Clearwater Mitigation Solutions LLC and to pay Clearwater Mitigation Solutions LLC the total mitigation fee of $223,047.65 as shown in Exhibit A. Thank you.
Who's got questions?
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna need you to just break this down for somebody that's a country boy like myself,
Sure.
of why we have to pay $250,000 to a company.
Be glad to do that. And I think that if it would be okay, I would like to rely on Michael Sloop, our project manager,
That is
to
fine.
come up. Michael,
Yes.
this is
I would just
calling
like to
you.
know where $250,000 has to be paid.
Right. And I think that Michael and I, please, Michael Sloop, come up and state your name, please, for the record.
Michael Sloop, CDM Smith.
Right. So maybe you can point out an area for us where this was affected on our project, and then we can further answer your questions about the mitigation credits that we have to purchase for this to offset wetlands.
So I'll tackle it in two parts. The first part, like Scott was saying, is there are areas where we have impacts to the streams and to the wetlands on the project. One specific area, probably the main area, would be the East Middleton Pump Station. So the existing East Middleton Pump Station is in place, and the area surrounding it is primarily going to be wetlands. And so we did an evaluation looking at multiple different ways to upgrade that station, whether we do it in place, construct a new one adjacent to it, or even shift the East Middleton lift station to a different location. Constructing it, replacing the existing one in place means we have to bypass pump the entire time, which is extremely costly, and also there's a potential risk to the environment. Bypass pumping is very risky. It can result in overflows. So that one we kind of shifted to the side. And then we looked at building a new pump station. We considered moving it to the south, but the problem with that is you have to move the pipeline to the south too. So to get to a location where we weren't going to have wetland impacts, we'd have to install several thousand feet of gravity sewer down to the new station, and then several thousand feet of pressure pipe going back up to the north. And that in itself is going to be over $1 million. So that left us with the third option, which was to construct a new station immediately around the existing station where there are wetlands. So we were going to have to go in and actually eliminate these wetlands, bring in fill, raise the area up, get it out of the water, out of the wet area, and construct a new station. That's an example of an area where we have wetland impacts. In terms of the next part of the question, why does it cost $223,000? So Scott mentioned there's different ways to address that from a financial perspective. You can pay the state. The state will allow you to pay those fees based off of a dollar amount that they designate as it would cost for them to go in and replace and construct a wetland of equal magnitude, equal area, if you will, and quality. And they designate that fee on a per acre basis. Another option is go to a wetland bank. So a mitigation bank like what we have, what they actually do is they have engineering firms similar to us will go out and actually design and then hire contractors and construct wetlands across the state. And then they will get mitigation credits saying, hey, we constructed this wetland, give us credit for doing that. And then we're going to sell that credit to someone else that has an impact to a wetland that can't construct their own wetland in that same area. And that actually ends up being more cost effective than purchasing the credits through the state. So basically what that amount is Clearwater saying this is how much with a profit attached that we paid to design and construct wetlands to the area, the magnitude that we are impacting on our project. So it's kind of well, I won't say it's a 1-to-1 because there are ratios that they'll apply, 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1, depending on the quality of the wetland you're impacting. But that's essentially where the fee comes from.
So we're going to build up a swamp area.
Yes, sir.
So we have to pay $250,000 so they can put a swamp area somewhere else in the state.
Yes, sir.
To make up for the swamp area that we're going to make useful.
Yes, sir.
Who owns the swamp area?
We do.
It'll get designated to the state, the Army Corps of Engineers will control
Who
it.
owns it currently?
Yeah, who owns the swamp area that we're,
It's private property, it's the HOA. So we're actually getting an easement for that area. We're not, SGWASA is not going to acquire the property. It's going to be a dedicated easement through the homeowners association. They own the property. SGWASA will acquire an easement so they can develop it and have rights to have the station on there and then maintain it.
So the HOA owns it and it's designated a wetland through the HOA or through the state?
It's designated as a wetland through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and it happens to be on the HOA property.
because we're in the Falls Lake watershed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of the bottom line?
There are wetlands all across the state and all the different watersheds throughout the state. And
Okay.
how much you pay and the value, if you will, the government puts on the wetland is influenced by where it is geographically. So in the Falls Lake watershed, it's going to be worth more money because of the water quality impacts to the Falls Lake.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yes, ma'am.
I do appreciate the question.
I understand where you're coming from.
It sounds like this
You
book's
can read my
kind of,
mind, right?
I don't think I have to read it, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from. This is just the process that they use. And again, I feel fortunate if we can end up working it out with the banks, it's actually less expensive than if we went through the state to do it through the mitigation banks, which we're trying to accomplish here. And then there's the next item on the agenda, which Scott will talk about. So I may be back
yeah,
up there.
that's
answering
the streams is
questions.
the next one. But,
I was trying to cover it all at one time. So that way it would make it a little bit easier.
yeah,
We sit here and we ask for help from the state and the federal government to help us with our water quality and things of that nature, and then they turn around and they charge us more money.
give it to you in one hand, take it back to another.
I'm just perplexed. I mean, like I said, I'm just a normal citizen like everybody else. I'm trying to understand. We're gonna
How do you play?
pay the government $250,000 because we're going to take a swamp area and make it useful for the citizens to have a better upgraded water and sewer system.
And they're gonna make.
But we're going to turn around and after they're going to take that money and they're going to we're going to build a swamp area over here because we took the swamp area and made it better. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
This to me, this kind of works like you're buying nutrients for wastewater treatment plants within a river basin.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. the
It's,
same
it's, it's pretty much the same shakedown.
It is.
Jim, have you looked over this?
I have, and I told Scott a moment ago that the board's approval, if you don't mind, needs to just make it subject to any final revisions to the contract. I think we had a couple of questions when you get revised, but what you have in here is substantially the form of the contract that will be executed, but we just need authorization to make some changes to it.
Financial changes?
No, no financial.
Okay, no financial
Not that I'm
changes.
aware of.
Okay. Okay. Any further questions from anyone? All right, hearing no more questions, do we hear a motion?
A motion
And as
approved by
Jim,
recommendation from the executive director
and as Jim said, to make it,
to make it, where they can make changes, amendments.
Contract. I'll second that motion.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. The ayes have it. Motion carries. Now we get into the next item. It's item 13. And this is the I-85 Sewer Improvement Project Stream Mitigation Credit Supply Agreement, requesting an authority to execute an agreement with EBX News 1 LLC. And that's, I guess this is the sister to the item 12, right?
Much cheaper.
Yes, that is correct. So I think that the board has a good understanding from the previous item of mitigation that is required, whether you like it or not. This is just part of the process moving forward. This one is more specific to stream mitigation credits as related to what we refer to as the I-85 lift station. Okay, so this is a brand new lift station that will be a sanitary sewer lift station that will be installed on Village Court in Butner. So if you're all familiar with the road going next to Tractor Supply and a cul-de-sac, it's back in that region. And we would have the Food Lion Plaza to the north. So kind of sits up on a hill on a ridge, and there's a stream going through that area. So positioning that pump station, that lift station on that parcel, we're impeding on that stream once again, just based on how we're building at that facility. And you can see that we're asking for purchasing stream mitigation credits from a different vendor, if you will, supplier EBX News 1 LLC, at an expense for the mitigation credits of $32,355.18. You see the recommendation in front of you as well on page 91. And Jim, are you asking for the same consideration here
Right.
to be able to make any final revisions, additional revisions as we close out this contract?
Okay, any questions from anyone? Any comments?
Who owns that land?
Pardon me?
Who owns that parcel? Is that
That,
It's a company who we're buying it from. That would be EBX-News 1 LLC.
just
they
another,
own it and they mitigate?
Right, that's the bank that we're buying it from. The mitigation bank. It's called a mitigation bank, and that's who we're buying it from.
That's not who owns the property.
But who owns the property?
no.
What, I'm sorry, you talking about here?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
the,
actually,
Oh, I
I'm
misunderstood.
So,
This is Primax.
the property again, yes.
This is Primax property. We've talked about that one
Okay,
before.
I remembered that one.
They're the company that rents to Tractor Supply.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Is that a stream that flows year round or a wet weather stream?
I don't answer
I
that.
don't. I was just curious.
I don't believe it's like a constantly flowing stream that we're dealing with. It's just wetland, correct?
It's a combination of streams throughout the project area that we're impacting. So the main one is at the I-85 lift station, and that is I believe it is a perennial stream, which would be a constant flowing, but we are impacting intermittent streams, which are wet weather streams as well in the project.
Okay, so this is not just one stream width.
Correct.
This is a group of, okay.
I'll offer a motion to accept our executive director's recommendation as well as our attorney's purview to tweak the contract.
I second that.
Go ahead, Judy. Judy got second.
Okay. We're a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Jim's still talking.
I was just gonna say that the language would be that the SGWASA Board of Directors authorize the Executive Director and Attorney to finalize and the Executive Director to execute the mitigation credit supply agreement with EBX News 1 LLC and pay EBX News 1 LLC the total mitigation fee as set out in the agreement.
You amend the motion? We still have a second? Still have a second? And we have a new second to the amended motion, technically, so, if there's no discussion on the motion, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. And now we get down to our finance director, Mr. Richard Ballmer. Fiscal year 24-25 budget amendment number 2. And I think this is cleaning up some stuff, carry over from 23-24 budget to 24-25 budget, is that correct?
Amendment number 2 is yes.
Okay.
And it's easier than swamps and streams, so we'll go quick.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Fiscal year 24-25 budget amendment 2 is a rollover of services and projects. Basically, to summarize what's in your agenda, this is a carryover item from last fiscal year. These are projects and encumbrances that didn't get completed last year. They're still ongoing. I won't read them all, but you have 5 operating encumbrances, and then you have several large projects that you're all aware of that you've approved over the past. This is basically rolling forward any unexpended funds from those contracts from prior years into the new year. And for those that are grant funded, like the AIA projects, it's rolling forward the unexpended or unreimbursed grant funds as well. You see, you've already approved in July budget amendment number 1, which was an operating budget amendment for $124,900. Budget amendment number 2 is an increase in other financing sources, which is the grant money expected to be spent for these projects of $1,152,006. It's transferring from fund balance appropriating $3,429,950 for a total increase in revenues of $4,581,956. The breakdown of the expenditures is increase in human resources expenditures by $30,000, utilities sewer line maintenance by $57,338, wastewater treatment $4,000, utilities pump stations and towers $107,277, projects and studies $4,383,341. Total expenditure increase $4,581,956. There's a supporting document in your agenda packets that outline each project individually, and the executive director's recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment number 2 as presented. I'll answer any questions about any of the details of the amendment if you have any.
No questions.
Okay, any questions?
Make a motion to approve the budget amendment number 2.
Okay, we have a motion. Second. Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Item 15, fiscal year 24-25 budget amendment number 3.
Budget amendment number 3 for fiscal year 24-25 is much smaller than the previous one. It's basically reallocating budget for the 24-25 budget year between departments. It includes some reallocation for board events, facility tours, strategic plan workshops, etc. And it's reallocating some budget for supplies at the wastewater plant. You see that you've just passed budget 1 in July, budget 2 tonight, and you see the impact of those on both operating and CIP fund balance for a total thus far of $3,554,850,000. Budget amendment number 3, as you can see from the amendment itself, is not increasing or decreasing revenues at all. Expenditures, it's increasing board depreciation and other expenditures by $7,500, and that's coming from the projects and studies department decreasing $7,500. So the impact on expenditures and revenue is a net zero. The executive director's recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment 3 as presented, and then you have the supporting documents, which is very simple and straightforward, I think, but I'll answer any questions.
Any questions?
Motion to approve budget amendment number 3.
Do we have a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. We'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Number 16, fiscal year 24-25, schedule of rate fees and charges, proposed amendment to the late fee balance value.
This item is more of a clarification to the board, to bring it to the attention of the board and ask any direction. Basically, in the schedule of rates, fees, and charges schedule that was revised and approved by the board for 24-25 during the budget process, I believe that was in May. Yeah, it was adopted May 14th of 2024 as part of the budget. Included in that schedule, the board approved increasing the late fee from $5 to $10, but in the associated table, the minimum balance that which a late fee is assessed was not changed. So typically in the past, as far as I know, the late fee for SGWASA had been $5 since its formation. So you see in the bottom table that really, to keep them in sync, we had the intention of changing late fee payment on past due balances of $10 or more to coincide with that $10 fee increase. And the recommendation is really that the Board of Directors provide guidance on whether they would like to see this revision made to the schedule of rates, fees, and charges. If so, what effective date they would like to see. I think Scott and I had a discussion that when we bring the rate schedule fees back for the SDS to be approved, we could incorporate this minor change as well. There's some information, background information in your packets as to how many accounts would have been affected. I think it was very minimal number of accounts. So I'm here to answer any questions on that and provide the information to get some guidance from the board.
Questions?
Richard, can you kind of give me an example? I don't know if you know any, but say past balances. Does someone come in and pay past balances, or do they do a minimum balance?
Well, so let's say you owe $100. You're a customer and you owe $100 for your bill, and you don't pay it by the late fee day. So you get assessed in the old days $105. You get assessed that $5 late fee. So after the 5th of the next month, you owe $105 now. And let's say you didn't know that, or you had a check in the mail, so it was crossing in the mail, so you had a check for $100 that was coming to us, it just hadn't gotten here in time. So that would leave a $5 fee, a late fee on your account that would flow through to your next bill. So the kind of the theory behind it was you wouldn't want to assess a new late fee next month on that $5 fee. You just let it ride. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Now we're assessing a $10 fee, but by the way the schedule is worded, they may only owe $5 and you're assessing a $10 fee on a $5 balance.
Right.
And customers may perceive that as a little unfair or skewed. So we're trying to clarify that it's always been that way, but before you were assessing a $5 late fee on a $5 balance. Now your assess could be potentially assessing a $10 late fee, only $5 or $5.50 or a $6 balance. So we're just bringing that to the attention of the board to see if you want to change that minimum balance to $10 so that at least you're more equitable in the fee versus the balance that's remaining that's being assessed on. Is that clarifying? I know it's a little
That's a little confusing.
Yeah, wouldn't it only be assessed if it was late again?
It would, but basically, if you get a late fee for 2 months in a row, it could be assessed again, because now you're building that balance.
They're having to pay extra every month, or get another fee. Is that right?
What are other utilities charged on late fees?
You see a range. You see a lot of them going to $10 or $15. You still see a lot that are still at the $5 range because, as with SGWASA, they're small and they've been that way for a long, long time. But you have seen quite a few of them increase to the $10 range in the last few years. You've seen late fees and what used to be called disconnect or cutoff fees, now non-payment fees. You've seen those kind of go up in a lot of entities.
What percentage of customers have a late fee?
I don't have that number in front of me as far as the number of customers that get assessed a late fee. I can tell you at one time when I was looking at it, it was about 800 customers, 850 customers that were getting a late fee out of our 6,200 customers that were getting a late fee. And of course, some of those are corporate or institutional customers, and they don't pay the 5 or 10, they pay 1.5% of whatever their balance is. So they may have a substantially higher late fee. But we do still have a large number of customers that don't pay by the 5th each month.
Is that per month, 800 customers?
That was at one time, but again, I would rather send the board that data. I'll be glad to pull, we keep a spreadsheet of that, so I'll be glad to pull that data and tell you how many customers, let's say for the last 3 months, what that average for the last 3 months or 6 months or whatever you prefer.
I'm just questioning why we have such a short window of when something's late.
That's a very good question. And that question used to get asked quite a bit, but I think, so let me explain that if I could. So we get that question a lot as far as municipalities or counties that may have water systems or other entities that have water systems. We'll take Creedmoor, Oxford, somebody of that nature. They send them out and they may allow, let's say, 3 weeks before they become delinquent. And then they may have a very short period before they are actually cut off. So you may get 3 weeks to pay it before a late fee, but you may only get a week to pay it before it's disconnected. So, and that's allowable with a city or a county system. With an authority, you have to wait 30 days after it's deemed delinquent before you can treat it as non-payment for disconnection. So our bills go out the 20th. The board has approved back in the early days of SGWASA, maybe as early back as 2006, that the bill becomes due on the 5th of the month. If the 5th falls on a weekend or holiday, it's the next Monday. So 30 days from there would be the 5th of the next month. But because of that few days that it could fall on a weekend, the board said, and SGWASA's recommendation was the 12th of the next month becomes non-payment. So you get a bill August 20th. It becomes due and late if you don't pay it by September 5th. And then it goes into non-payment status on October 12th. So you have almost 60 days before you get disconnected, which is much shorter than most cities and counties. But you only have from the 20th to the 5th, which is approximately 2 weeks, to pay it before it's late. If you expanded that 2 weeks to, let's say, 4 weeks, let's say we gave somebody until the 15th or 20th of the next month, now you have to push your disconnection out 30 days from that date. So you may be talking about 75 days since that bill was mailed before it can actually be disconnected. By then, that customer has 3 bills outstanding. So you're increasing your bad debt. The customer's balances are becoming large. So that's kind of the theory behind it.
Well, I appreciate that, because I was not really aware of the timelines on it. So thank you.
We get that question from customers quite a bit that move here from a different city or some water system that's a city instead of an authority. And they say, well, we had 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Yeah, but if you look at the policy, you may have been cut off a week after that late fee. And we simply can't do that. If we push the late fee out further, then you have to push 30 days for the disconnection. So you're accumulating many more bills before disconnection. And a lot of, I believe even Creedmoor did, if I recall, when we acquired that system and rolled their policies in. I believe they sent out the bill the 30th, the last week of the month, and you were disconnected before you got a second bill. So with our customers, before disconnection occurs, you've already got 2 and a third one in the mail, basically.
Thank you.
I have another thought. State employees get paid at the end of the month, right? Or the first of the month?
I'm not sure when the state.
I was just thinking, that means they would have 5 days to pay their bill. If that was the case, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the pay date, but.
But most of our bills are paid at the middle of the month, so that's one you have to really think about when it comes to the first of the month, to make sure you pay your water bill.
Right. But that's how the timing works.
Okay.
You got a short window before it's late, much longer window before it's disconnected in comparison to a lot of cities and counties.
Well, thank you, Richard.
Anyone else? I've got a question, Richard. What would the effect of making the past due balance instead of $10, $12 or $15? What effect would that have?
it really, it's the board, that number can be any number the board thinks is preferable. There is no effect. You have a few more customers that would fall in that. We do have, we are concerned that, and we do see this from time to time. So let's say you made that number $12, $13. That person is having a cash flow problem that month, so they undercut their bill and don't pay $12 or $13, knowing they won't get a fee. Then next month they do the same thing for next month's bill. They undercut it by $12. Now all of a sudden you've got a $24 balance on 2 months worth of bills that you didn't pay. Now you're in a disconnection status because you've let that number build to a point that it becomes a disconnection past due balance. That's the higher that number goes, the more you may run into conflict with customers not realizing that it's going to put them in disconnect status. They see it and say, well, I'm not assessed a late fee, so it must be okay for me to just carry that forward. But if you carry it forward 2 months for 2 bills, now all of a sudden you're owing enough money to get you disconnected. So that's the only fallback to making that number too high. And so we've always kept it in trend with the fee, with the late fee. But it doesn't have to be. That can be at the discretion of the board. It can be any number you'd like.
So the late fee, I mean, I know you're gonna get a late fee if you don't pay on time, but so that's sort of like a red flag or something to let you know you don't wanna continue that.
Right, so even at the $10 number, so you let the $10 number stay. You didn't pay it for whatever reason. You got assessed a late fee, you paid your original bill, not the late fee. Next month you do the same thing to next month's bill, you get assessed a $10 fee on that bill, and then you pay the bill but not the late fee. Now you owe $20, you're in disconnection status. So even with $10, after 2 months you could be disconnected.
Yeah,
So
and
the
it
new
costs,
balance carryover of
yeah,
2 months.
and it costs money to reconnect, right?
It does. It does. So that's the only downfall to customers is they don't realize that number's growing. You know, a lot of customers don't look at the past due from the previous month when they got a new bill. It has a past due. And if you owe the $10 or the $5, whatever the late fee was, it'll show up as the previous month's balance forward, past due, added to your new bill. But a lot of people just don't look at that. They look at the body of the bill and says, my bill this month is $80, so I'm going to pay $80. They're not looking at the bottom that says, you really owe $90. And so if that number grows too large, you get disconnected.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a comment to your question, Councilperson Daniels, that one of the things that we really look forward to in this new software upgrade is the ability to do greater notifications on your billing balance, overdue past due payments as far as notification via cell phone, via text, via additional email. Plus, we're also looking at the budget billing and levelized billing as well programs that we don't currently have available to our customers. So when we see this new software implemented over the course of this next year, we're going to be able to provide those vehicles as well to our customers that, for those that want to take advantage of it, maybe want to be on budget billing, that will help them through a period of time as well. So we look forward to those improvements. We don't have that yet, but we've listened to our customers. We've looked at programs, and Rich and I, when we were evaluating new financial software and utility billing software, those were the questions we asked, because those have been the questions we've been asked. When can we have something like this? So rest assured, we are moving in that direction.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Richard?
Thank you.
Any guidance on whether the board would like to see this changed from 5 to 10 or a different number? And do you want to wait until the schedule is revised officially in a couple of months, or do you want to take action to retroactively change it now with the schedule coming at a later date? Any guidance on that?
Think we should do it now, wait till we do the system development fee?
I would like to see us do it now. And I think you had a total of 8 customers that this affected.
It was 5. It was 3 customers that were affected by the July 5th bill and 2 customers affected by the August 5th bill. So it's only been 5 in 2 months, so it's not a tremendous urgency. But we didn't want the customers to ask questions, and we have brought it to the board's attention and gotten guidance from the board.
I'd like to see us give them some type of credit because this was an oversight and we're trying to correct the $10 to $10.
Okay, is that the direction of the board that we
And
go forward with
I'm
this change?
speaking of $5 credit.
Right, whatever well, the credit would be the late fee itself.
The late fee is set.
Right, so if they were charged $10, then we give them back $10, credit them back $10.
Okay, I thought they were charged an extra $5.
No, the fee, it was 10, and it was charged as 10. It's just that their balance due may have been $5.10, and they were assessed $10. If we had made this change, those people owing between $5 and $10 balances would not have been assessed a late fee. So maybe I didn't clarify that, I'm sorry.
Okay. What's
Confused again, it is, it's
I
been
am
confusing.
that last,
Yeah.
but I'm the newbie.
So,
What's your recommendation, Mr. Finance Director? How's that?
Yeah, that's a good one, thank you.
We're gonna go with better for you and your staff. How's that?
well, I think, and in talking to the staff and the executive director, we think that to keep the policy in sync with the way it used to be, charge $5 on anything above $5, that we should have made that administrative change to minimum balance being 10, fee being 10. So that would be my suggestion, is that we keep that policy, that we make this change. And if you want to make it retroactive to July 1st when the new rate schedule took effect, we can go ahead and implement that, refund these 5 customers, credit them back for the $10 fees they were assessed, and then change our system so that it doesn't recur with the actual schedule coming for board approval with the SDFs. We didn't want to bring you 2 schedules with just 2 small things in it at one time, probably in September.
September, possibly October, yes.
So,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to go with the direction and recommendation of the Finance Director and his staff as he just presented.
Okay.
I second that.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Well,
Any
from what
clarification?
he said, he was gonna credit back, right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I'm wanting, okay.
Until we change what's
So
coming
change our
forth
words.
at a later date.
and that's the advantage of the customers. Only 5, but 5 is 5.
Yes, yes.
And I wanted the 5.
It's
I
more
would,
of a feel good.
that's correct. I think it's only fair. Always stick with the recommendation of the finance director. It's always right.
I'm learning. I'm learning.
Can't go wrong.
I'm learning, sir.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. And we're at item 17, proposed 10-year capital improvement project plan. Request for approval by our executive director.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packets this evening, beginning on page 107, is a copy of the proposed 10-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 24 through 34, and also at your desktop, you have larger printouts available to you, and also in the audience, we have these same schedules at the table behind you for your reference. So on May 14th, 2024, the SGWASA board approved the FY 24-25 budget. And the 24-25 budget included the supporting documents as far as the rates, fees, and charges, which we were just talking about. The budget did not include the updated 10-year capital improvement plan referenced as a CIP. The updated 10-year CIP was not included in the fiscal year 24-25 budget, since additional financial information was needed from the closeout of the previous fiscal year. Once we closed out that fiscal year, we had the correct balances to move forward, if you will, into this fiscal year, and then use that balance to continue to build our CIP schedule. So the 10-year CIP has been updated with SGWASA's financial obligation of $6.9 million for the I-85 sanitary sewer improvement project. During the next 2 fiscal years, the 10-year CIP has been modified significantly from the previously approved 10-year version. Due to the funding required for this project, many of the projects that were scheduled for design and construction during the next few years have been pushed out several years. Additionally, with the minimal funding available for the CIP beyond the I-85 sewer project, the focus during the next few years will be to concentrate funding on developing water quality engineering, design, and construction projects, especially those projects related to the PFAS removal. Taking this approach allows SGWASA to identify future projects and their associated costs, thus providing SGWASA the opportunity to seek additional grant funding and to have projects shovel-ready when the projects are added back into the CIP. So should the Board of Directors approve the 10-year CIP, then SGWASA staff will initiate the projects. Just a reminder as far as the financials, beginning in fiscal year 24-25, SGWASA is funding asset depreciation at 95%. This funding this asset depreciation at that level provides funding at $2,280,000. So I provided for you a full-size copy of the CIP, and my recommendation is the board approve the 10-year CIP. I'd be happy to go into any details on what you have here. Again, I will just emphasize that we had to skinny down a lot of our projects over the next 2 years, just basically because of the offset of the financial obligation that SGWASA has for the USDA project, our portion of the project at $6.9 million. So on our schedule, for example, if you were looking at page 1 of the 2-page, we have on page 1 pretty much a focus on our water program areas, water treatment facilities, water distribution, pump stations, and water towers. Some of the items to highlight include engineering design for rehab of existing clear wells and chlorine contact chambers at the water plant. We have design work for a 16-inch water valve replacement project at the facility, and our water filter assessment project for future design work. This is filters within the site itself as far as backwash filters. We also have in our water distribution area $1 million set aside for our meter changeout program. And again, that is a program that is focused on the City of Creedmoor service area. So it's about 2,000 meters that are being changed out. So we have requests for proposals closing the 16th of August for the service installation. So it's a 2-part project. I'll cover that later in my report for the board. Additionally, we have in our water distribution areas water quality improvements, various designs, and construction of $230,000 is the focus. So I think that you can appreciate just from what we've talked about in this project here, our focus on water quality overall and what we're working towards as far as PFAS removal. I was silent on that for a moment because I'll address that with the board as well in an update, because we have different funding sources for that, some grants already for that project, which is helping us on that, so I'll be glad to discuss that. So that's just a highlight of our distribution program. And then on page 2, we have projects that are focused on wastewater collection, if you will, lift stations, force mains, wastewater treatment facility, and then some administrative topics. So I'll just provide some highlights for the board on that. So this year we have $170,000 set aside for our annual sewer cleaning and televising program. That's under contract, so I will be bringing another updated contract to the board for our second year of that 2-year contract here coming up if the board approves this schedule. We also have a 30% share. So let me talk about our $6.9 million with the USDA, what SGWASA owes for that project. So we're looking at that project in terms of funding this project over a pretty much 30-month, 36-month period for both CP1 and CP2. So effectively starting the 1st of January 2025, we look at spending down the ARPA funding for that. So we were given $35 million in ARPA funding for that project. We've already spent just a little over $5 million for the engineering design work, so we have a balance of $28 million plus on that project. So we have to pay that down, that ARPA funding, by the due date of submitting all reimbursements by December of 2026. So we need to be under contract by December 2024 this year, and then we have 2 years to get all of our reimbursements. So we're going to spend down the ARPA funding because of that requirement. So you can see basically what we're proposing in our CIP for this fiscal year is to dedicate 30% share of SGWASA's money into this fiscal year for the pay down, which equates to just over $2 million. And then we take the balance, or that 70% of what we owe, and we push that into next fiscal year, which is $4.8 million. Obviously combined, you get your $6.9 million. So just to give you some insight as to why they're split over the years, and it's basically to align with payments as far as reimbursements with ARPA, and also the different construction packages that we're doing that are assigned to the different financial packages along the way. It's a lot of moving parts. to get to our final state here in 30 to 36 months. So a highlight for you on that. We also have included the sanitary sewer wetland mitigation offset payments in this, so that's part of that program. And then another program I want to talk about, a highlight for this fiscal year, is we move forward the $50,000 that was approved in last year's schedule for the organizational-wide facility needs study, and that's taking a look at all of our facilities as far as the areas that are set up. This facility that we lease from the town of Butner, we're all growing, so we're going to come back and identify our needs for future growth in the organization. Of course, there's additional projects that we can talk about on these scheduled years. The CIP is very important. It's something that has to be approved. It's part of our USDA package. It's also best management practices to have a plan. But then again, when you look at the bottom line, you can see that we are very lean as far as fund balance in fiscal years 25 and 26. And then we start to gain back in terms of fund balance over the next couple of years. So once we put our focus on and attention on the I-85 project, and in the meantime, we're continuing to do additional studies and design work to get us ready for those years after that, we put ourselves in a good position to get our major project done. And also at the same time, a companion piece is the PFAS project, because that's going to be a major investment as well in the water plant to reduce PFAS at the water plant. So that's not really reflected on the schedule because it sits outside the schedule with some additional funding, but that's what we're going to see over the course of the next 5 years. It's going to be the I-85 project. It's going to be a lot of studies that we're going to be doing to prepare us to build the CIP. It's going to be the lead and copper program, and it's going to be PFAS, and not necessarily in that order, because we've listed PFAS basically as the priority one here that we're working on. So just to give you some insight how we're managing through this schedule and all of these projects to keep advancing the organization for both water and wastewater that we know we need to work on an 80-year-old facility that we have, and infrastructure that we're fighting against as well. So be happy to answer any questions, dive into any projects particularly of interest, have discussion.
Any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve the CIP project.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second? Any discussion on the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Item 18, license and encroachment agreements, seeking authorization for the executive director to grant licenses or encroachment agreements. And Mr. Troy, you take this for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So periodically, SGWASA receives requests from individuals or entities asking for permission to locate property on land owned by or easements held by SGWASA. For example, a property owner may want the corner of a shed to sit on the edge of a SGWASA easement, or a municipality may wish to place a piece of equipment, such as a license plate reader, on SGWASA property. As a result of requests from individuals and entities asking for permission to locate property on land owned by or easements held by SGWASA, Executive Director requests authority to grant such licenses or encroachment agreements subject to the conditions that 1, SGWASA must at all times be able to access its easements and property, even if that requires removal on structures or other obstructions. 2, all such licenses shall be terminable at SGWASA's direction within 60 days written notice or sooner for cause. And 3, the licensee shall maintain insurance in an amount suitable to the SGWASA Executive Director and Attorney. In terms of the financials, managing the process related to evaluating and then executing license agreement bears minimal cost to SGWASA. And as far as next steps, should the board members approve this item, then the Executive Director will collaborate with SGWASA's attorney to develop guidelines for granting such licenses or encroachment agreements. I will just add that I do not have this authority currently. I've talked to Jim Wren about this because I do get this request. Again, this seems to be just standard business in most municipalities, authorities, as we come across these requests or even some of these items. And I thought it was the appropriate time to bring this to the board's attention. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have any questions?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Sorry.
We have a second. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you. Now, comments from our executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Because I have information to present to the board, I'm going to take the podium. And Crystal, you help me get ready for some of the items I want to present. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, I'd like to just move this a little bit closer, Mr. Gooch. All right, first of all, board members, I would just like to thank all the utility members and all staff for the great work that they did during the Tropical Storm Debbie most recently. So staff did a fantastic job to get us through the storm event that we had this last week. They did a great job preparing for the event, modifying as necessary based on the weather, and then also executing over the weekend. So again, just want to thank everyone from our utility team members through our finance department, which was very helpful with this, and also communications. Throughout the event, we kept the board updated on what was happening. I was glad to see the sunshine come out when it did and have us work through the event. Unfortunately, we did have two events as far as sanitary sewer overflow events related to a couple of our pump stations throughout our system. I did communicate that with the board. We are required to publish those notices. We did publish that today on our website, so that information is available currently to the public. And then also we do those publications, or we actually advertise in our local publications as well, so you'll see those coming up. So again, just want to thank all of our members, SGWASA's members, for what they did, and it just helps us prepare and identify things that we need to improve upon. Because after every event you say, what do we do well, what do we not do so well? So we're already in that process of looking at that after the storm, because we know we have a long hurricane season ahead of us here through the end of November. So we're well prepared. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you. I would like to address, as we talked about earlier, PFAS and water quality projects update. But before I get to that, I would like to kind of walk through some of the items that were mentioned this evening in the letter that we did receive from the city of Creedmoor. So Crystal, I'm going to ask you to pull up some information for me. And I think what I would like to start with are some of the graphs for the water quality that we have, okay?
Okay.
All right, so just for a background, just some of the things one of the things I wanted to start off with was, I think the board has learned in working with me in the last 5 years that when it comes to problem solving, we tend to take a specific problem solving technique or steps. And I know that sometimes it takes a long time for us to work through a problem and to get to a solution. And oftentimes I hear frustration from customers, what's taking so long? So why I mention that is because we've taken this approach to analyze sewer issues. We've taken this approach to analyze water quality issues. So I just wanted to bring that forward to the board and to the public at the same time, that we spend a lot of time, if you will, defining the problem. That's very important. Our next step is that we gather information. That's very important as well. In other words, we're not going out there and just assuming we know what the problem is. And I think we demonstrated that most recently when it was brought to our attention that there were concerns about water heaters and corrosion in our system as well. And the first thing we said was, well, wait a minute, let's try to understand what's going on here, identify the problem that was brought to our concern. So we're moving in that direction, and we're gathering information. And we're moving forward with that. As we told the board, we would get under contract with Hazen and Sawyer to start addressing that. We did that in July, and we have some traction on that, so we are moving forward in that direction. We also look at the next step as far as generating possible solutions, brainstorming all the potential solutions. And then we look at evaluating basically the options that we have and assessing the pros and the cons. This is just natural problem solving techniques that we work through on everything that we work on. We then work to choose the best solution. And a lot of times for a utility, that's the most cost-effective solution. And sometimes the solutions and the answers are driven by regulations that we have as well and what we're forced into. And then we look at implementing the solution.
that's the next step. But you don't stop there. You actually monitor and review after implementation to actually see did you achieve your goal. And if not, why not? What addition needs to be done? So why are those steps important? Why did I mention that this evening? I mentioned that this evening because one of the issues that was brought to my desktop early on, and again, I've been here for 5 years starting in August of 2019, and water quality has been on the front of the desk, on the front of the burner ever since, and so has sewer, the I-85 project. And you can see what we've demonstrated, how we've moved through that process over the last 4 years to get us where we are today. So taking that same problem-solving technique approach, one of the first things that I brought to the board's attention was, well, in order for us to identify what the problem is, we have to understand what is going on. So I suggested to the board and to the organization that we develop a hydraulic model. And we introduced technology that said hydraulic models allow us to map the system that we have, to basically create a digital twin of what's going on out there. We have the ability to put inputs into that model and understand through all the data what is actually occurring in that model and do what is scenarios. So what if we change this? What if we change that? What's the outcome? So why do I mention that this evening? I mention that this evening because when we took that step, we developed our first hydraulic model back in the fall of 2022. SGWASA spent $150,000 to develop that model, and the model focused on the Creedmoor service area. So this was specifically designed and set up for the Creedmoor service area to start there because that's where we were having a lot of concerns and a lot of issues. So we said, let's take a look at that subset. And then as we develop that model over the years, we'll go to each community, Butner and Stem and the county, and continue to build on that, which we've done to this day. So we focused on the Creedmoor service area for our initial model in 2022. And further analysis of that model, once we were done with the model, we ran the model, and we looked at the analysis, it provided us that the information that the chlorine booster station was not working properly. And the chlorine booster station is located at Lake Rogers. It's an entry point for the water coming from Butner. It goes into a booster station, and then it's sent out to the town of Creedmoor, the city of Creedmoor. And in fact, it was discovered that it wasn't working properly. It may not have been working properly for years, according to staff. How many years, I'm not sure. But we identified through this analysis and through this design that that's what was affecting a lot of our water quality out in the city of Creedmoor, and also some dead-end water mains, those type of things. So we moved forward off of that analysis and that problem solving to choose the best solution. And we worked with our engineering firm to basically design new equipment to go into that booster station. We went through the design, the bidding, and the contract. And the board approved the contract for $261,500 just several months ago. And the construction, after we've ordered all the parts, the construction is starting this week, basically on that improvement. So we are ending up with brand new equipment, brand new skate equipment in there as well, to understand the chlorine that's coming into that, boosting that chlorine and getting those chlorine levels up into that distribution network, which is a major problem through that network. Basically, we don't have enough chlorine to sustain that good water quality throughout the distribution network. So that's what we were building towards. That project is probably going to be finished in the next 30 days. So the good news is we'll have that chlorine we'll be putting into the system. We'll have better water out in those areas, fresher water, cleaner water, better chlorine values. But we won't stop there because, as I said, we need to, once we implement the solution, monitor and review with the hydraulic model. Basically, we'll go back after about 3 months and we'll start collecting those data points again for all of our samples that we take throughout that system and apply it back to the model and see if we're getting the results that we thought we were going to get. And if not, we'll continue to make adjustments. So just trying to demonstrate to the board and to the public how proactive SGWASA is being. There is a problem step process that we go through. It takes time to put your design together, to get your contract. You've got supply chain. You have to wait sometimes 3 to 6 months to get the equipment, and then you move forward. So that was just one example of what we've done for the hydraulic model for the city of Creedmoor. In addition to that, we're continuing to build our hydraulic model and focus in Creedmoor and other areas of our service area based on ARPA funding with our water AIA grant that we received, $150,000 that we're spending to continue to do this as far as our infrastructure. We also received $200,000 for an ARPA AIA grant for our wastewater system, which is helping us. As I mentioned previously, we have $1 million dedicated to a water meter upgrade project this year better water meters for our system, better ways to read the information, and eventually that will lead us to better technologies to understand what's going on with flows. Customers say, I want to understand better how much water I'm using during the day, which 15-minute period was it, those type of things. So we're moving in that direction as well to provide you with that data so that you can actually perform those conservation techniques on your own based on those values in your consumption at your home. And this year, I mentioned just previously, we have $230,000 set aside in our CIP for various water quality studies and design and management projects. So again, I think just emphasizing we are focused. We've been very focused on the I-85 project, for sure, but we are just as focused on the water quality projects that we're working on at the same time. Sprinkle in a little lead and copper that we're required to do at the same time. We're working on that. And then we were handed that gift of resolving all the PFAS that we have on our system. So again, those are the projects that we're working on. Okay, so that was just a little bit of background on that. So I thought it would be helpful just to provide some information back to the board and the public regarding water quality area flushing requests that we've received over the years. And I'll kind of step through some of the issues here. So the concern from the city of Creedmoor is that they received several requests about water quality, drinking water quality. And of course, we do comply with all federal and state standards, but they've noticed some sediments and some odors in the system. So how do we capture this? So we capture this information a couple of ways. And you can see on screen, I provided for you just a chart. And I have a chart for each community that we serve, and then a total chart at the end, a composite, if you will. So we reached back into our work order system beginning in 2016. From the data, I could see that we've been collecting regarding water quality area flushings. And you will see, for example, starting in 2016, we have a total of 90 requests for area flushing. And then we just basically moved through the years 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 to date means basically the 1st of August when we pull this data. So what we've done since 2019 is we've provided a better data capture to collect this information, and then we have routines on what we do with the information following that. So during the same time period, 2022, we had water quality improvements for disinfection byproducts, removal at the water treatment plant. That project was completed. It was about $14 million, almost $15 million improvement project that serves all areas of our service area, all communities. So I provided for you just a snapshot on, let's go back to page 1 there at City of Creedmoor. I provided for you just an idea of graphic of this is the information we've actually captured. People calling in, people emailing, people filling out the online questionnaire to capture this information. And then we actually take that information, it goes out to our water plant. I'll go through that process, and then we go out and we do the flushing, we do the follow-up with the customers. And this data is very important for us because we can turn this data back into information and apply it back into our models. And we can take a look at areas and discover, well, are certain water quality issues or complaints coming from certain geographies within the community, certain pipe systems, age of pipe, type of pipe, those type of things. It helps us in our analysis to figure out these solutions. It's all part of the problem solving that we're doing en masse. I've also provided for you, which I think is just very obvious, basically what has happened over the years during this time period from 2016 through 2024, that we've seen a downward trend in the number of complaints we've received. Now you have to look at that both ways. Those are the people that have taken the time to provide us with that information. That's the only way that you can look at this. There may be some that had concerns about their water quality that they never called in to provide us with the information. Well, you can see how that doesn't help us much. If we don't know what's going on and we haven't captured that information, we can't apply it to our learning model to figure out what we need to help us make these improvements. Here's an example of the City of Creedmoor through that time period of 2016 through 2024 current. The next chart, and we can come back to all these, I believe is the town of Butner. So same period, 2016 through current to date, August 2nd, 2024, and you will see quite different than a different line, if you will, and a different number of requests coming in for flushing for water quality from what is it, a low of 5 in 2022 to 19 currently today, more than we had last year at 18, but you can see what that line is doing, what that trend is doing. Again, helpful information. What are we seeing in Butner as far as water quality? We have several streets that are dead ends. we have old mains, and a lot of the service area in the old part of Butner, if you will, is served by galvanized service lines that come off of a ductile iron main or cast iron main. So what you have is, you've got this system where you've got water quality of one type in the water main itself where it's crystal clear, and then you're basically serving the water through aged galvanized pipes that are corroded on the inside, and that's really a service line issue coming to the home. So what we've done just most recently in tracking this data, we've worked with 2 homes on one block, I don't remember the street, and we identified through mapping and analysis that we were having this design, which is very common in Butner, where you have this galvanized main that kind of parallels our main, and then the homes are fed off of that. And I believe that's how the Army designed it for the barracks that they had back in the years. Once you disconnect that galvanized line and install a new service line back to the main, a new plastic line or copper line, their water clears up just like that, because they're drawing from a better source and not taking it through the old pipe. So again, going through this entire process over the last couple of years, these are the things that we're learning. These are the things that we're trying to resolve these water quality issues. So what's on the horizon? There could be a mass change out of service lines in the future to get everybody connected to different mains. There may be brand new mains run down streets, new plastic mains, water mains, to connect these areas well. That's all part of the design and the analysis that goes into this planning, the hydraulic models, so on and so forth. And then those improvements find their ways back onto our CIP. That's basically how things work together. So here's an example of, again, Butner, I believe is what we were talking about here, correct? And then let's move on to the next slide. And so that you've got the town of STEM. And I know that working with Commissioner McLam over the years, we're very proud of the water that we have in STEM as far as the number of complaints we don't get. And I know that the town of STEM performs their own water quality testing on a quarterly basis. They share that with us. We take that same information, we analyze it as well, look at it, and if we see something that concerns us, we have that data, we can go out and take a look at those same areas and say, what's going on here, what do we need to do? And it's been providing some great information for us. So, hence again, you see that same time period, 2016 through to date, and you see the water quality flushing complaints or concerns that come in. And then our final data table will basically show you just a composite of all the information that we provided today. I know it's a little bit busy, but at least you can see kind of a composite on one screen as far as what's going on here through the periods of 2016 to date 2024.
Got some great water in STEM.
So at that point, I'll pause to see if there's any questions or comments beyond the commissioner's comments based on the chart data. If there is none, then I'll just continue to move on with some of the information that I had to share with the board this evening.
Thank you for the information
Sure.
that was given. It was very detailed.
My pleasure.
And I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the update that you threw in there with the Lake Road pump station. It's good to know that the equipment's here, and hopefully that'll be done in 30 days.
Yes, and I think that you'll see different results based on an increase in that chlorine. In fact, we anticipate we're going to have complaints about the smell of chlorine in the water. That's just what we expect, but we'll market that as well. So what I would like to move on to next then is, Crystal, would you please pull up our water quality questionnaire? So this is something that was referred to in the letter by the city of Creedmoor that they're going to encourage their customers, SGWASA's customers, to fill out the water quality questionnaire and other information. So let me talk about that for just a moment. So we have on screen here our water quality questionnaire. You can access this water quality questionnaire via our website at SGWASA.org, or you can get a copy of the survey itself, the questionnaire from customer service. We can mail a copy out to you, but this is a web-based form that we provide on our website. And so, Crystal, let's just kind of walk through this water quality questionnaire if we may. So we make it very easy for our customers to fill out this survey. We ask them many questions. In fact, some people say it's too many questions, but we do ask these questions because it helps us dial down to what may be occurring at that address or in that region, and then allows us basically to take this information and geocode it back to our GIS or our additional models to find out where are these concentrations, where are these heat maps. So we take a look at that as well. So we ask questions in terms of when did you observe this, and we try to capture this data within 2 days that you've observed this, because reporting something to us today for something that happened in April, too much time has passed. We have no idea, was there a water main break? Was there a fire hydrant open from the fire department? What was going on at the time? So we ask you, if you notice something, please report it within a 2-day period. So we do ask you to provide us the time of day that this was observed. We also ask you for your name and your email and your phone number. We ask you for your service address, your city service. We ask how long you've been at this service address. And why do we ask that? Because we want to know how long have you been in the area? What can you help us with as far as observations? How old is your home? What type of residence do you have? Or service address? What type of service? Residential, commercial, educational, retail? Next page. What's the age of the facility? How old is your water heater? I don't know. 1 to 2 years. I just had it changed out. And some of these are active or dynamic questions that if you answer a certain area will give you more choices that open up on the survey. What kind of pipes do you have? Copper, plastic, galvanized, don't know. Do you have a whole house filtration system? We like to know that as well, because we have found that some people, some of our residents, our customers don't maintain their filters, and that causes some discolored water as well, where we don't have it outside, but we have it inside. So it helps us triage and identify what's going on. We also ask you to tell us where you observe this. You can select any location. And then we also ask what was the appearance of the water, the color, any particles, certain taste, certain odor. And you can actually attach pictures to this as well to give us an idea of what you're experiencing. And have you experienced this in the past? And then lastly, I think we finish up with, please, did any items occur in this area within the past 48 hours? Was there a water main break, hydrant flushing, construction, pipe construction, department responding to a fire, those type of things? That helps us to identify that something may have been going on that we weren't aware of, but there was a heavy draw on the system that caused sedimentation to build up or come out through your home as well. So we take a look at that. You can add some additional